Hi, I'm Danny, and it's time for Study Hall. And today in Study Hall, we are going to do Nina Johannson's homework from Exploring, week 2. So I have been really looking forward to this week for a long, long time. I've known about Nina Johannson's work for probably a decade, and I first started corresponding with her that long ago because I invited her to participate in a book that I had done called An Illustrated Journey, and I got to include some for watercolors, and I got to interview her that long ago. But I've always thought she was so spectacular. I couldn't wait to bring her to join the faculty of Sketchbook School. But when it came time to produce this class, because I live in New York and Kosha lives in Europe, she handles the productions in Europe. So she went up to Stockholm, to Sweden, and she spent time with Nina, and they produced the class together. So I would sort of see little glimpses of it, but I decided I was not going to sit down and watch the entire class until today, until we'd actually launched our semester, and I would get to be just like any other student, because I just knew that it was going to be great, and I wanted the surprise and the pleasure of doing it. So 6 o'clock this morning, I got up, and I watched Nina Johannson's videos, and I love them. And I did this drawing of her, kind of a little piece of fan art, because I think that she's so fantastic and so interesting looking too, I thought, with her eyes and her hair and her ears and everything about her. So I really loved hearing about her work, and I'm sure you did too. So then I decided that I wanted to get on with my homework today, part because it's supposed to rain all this week in New York. And today it was still, the rain hadn't arrived, so I thought I better make use of this time. But I was very busy, and I didn't get to work on my homework until 5 p.m. So I packed up my stuff, and I walked around my neighborhood, and I wanted to go and find, I live in Greenwich Village, which has got so many interesting buildings and street corners, and I've drawn a lot of them, but I wanted to draw something I've never drawn before. And so I went over to 7th Avenue to this old locksmith store. The store has been there since, I think, the mid-60s, and it hasn't really changed. Its ownership may have changed, but the building itself has just got this weird sort of metallic sculpture on the outside, and it always has these big safes, and it has all this stuff in the window, and the signage, and all that kind of stuff. It just was really interesting, and I wanted to kind of get into drawing some of that detail. So I also decided that I wanted to be kind of low-key, because the village is just packed with people, and I didn't really want to have... It was bad enough that I was drawing. I didn't want to be filming and all that kind of stuff. So I just brought along a little camera, and I took some pictures. So I'm just going to show you the pictures to illustrate my progress and to tell you what I did. So here's the first drawing I started to do. I wrestled a little bit with the proportions of the door. I think in the end I probably made it too wide, but I just drew the basic outlines. It's a fairly simple building, actually. Just a matter of getting the foreshortening right on that awning and placing the safes correctly. So that's the first thing that I did. And then next I kind of got more involved with the details of it, and I drew the stuff that was in the window, and I drew the other safe. And as I was drawing, part of the reason I picked this was because it felt like it was a fairly obscure destination. But of course, this is New York, and so before long, a couple of guys who I guess work in this little tiny store came out, and they started hanging out, sitting around in the armchair. So I had to decide that, well, I guess I'm going to have to draw this one guy, and I did. I drew him. There he is sitting in the chair. Then I continued to work on it and to add more and more detail. And I wasn't really sure where to go with this. I wasn't really sure how. I just kept seeing more and more things that I liked, more and more things that I was interested in drawing. So I ended up, I think, just adding more and more detail, but having to make some decisions, really, like how far was I going to go in drawing stuff in the store window, for instance, and the bricks. And I kind of went a little overboard. I drew a lot of detail. So then, of course, more people started to come. There was a guy fixing his bike there. It was kind of ridiculous. And more people kept blocking my view, which is just the way that it works in New York. So then I started focusing really on this metal work that was all around it, and has these kind of strange little snakes that go through it. So I started to draw those, And I also wanted to get all that lettering that was on the awning as well as the sign. And I had to kind of spec out and make sure that I got it all fitted in properly. So here's a drawing when I had much of that done. I had drawn the lettering, and I had drawn on the sign above, which was the trickiest part. And then I continued to sketch in these little snakes, but I still wasn't sure what I was going to do exactly with all of that surround metal. So, I kept working on it. Here's a closer detail of it. You can see it more closely. And then I started to draw the details. You see, I started to draw these little kind of circle shapes to kind of fill in all that metal. And you can see it there. Now, more people started to come. Then there was a family, and there was some weird guy who kept doing stretching exercises and just kept, I don't know what it was about this place, but it suddenly became a magnet for weirdos. This is at 6 o'clock on a Monday afternoon. Anyway, so before long I had drawn in the entire surround, and I had drawn all the sort of snake shapes, and I had colored it in. And I looked at it and I thought, okay, this works reasonably well as a line drawing, as an ink drawing, because I put in all the shading and all the dark. But I thought, one of the things I loved about Nina's work is her watercolor, and I had thought a lot about how clean her watercolor was, and I liked the way that she had built it up, and I thought I should do that too. But I had made a crucial mistake, which was when Nina did her drawing, she just did a very light kind of contour drawing. She certainly didn't do all this intense dark shading that I had done, and that was going to come back and plague me. I also made a decision to draw this tree behind the building and the fence to the side, and I kind of wish I hadn't done that, because it just kind of robbed the nice graphic nature of this building. And I also tried to draw a little bit of the pavement just to anchor the building, but I think I may have overdone that, and I'll show you why in a minute. So I pulled out my watercolors, and I started mixing a kind of a greenish color, and I painted that as the initial backdrop color, and then the kind of yellow, knowing that I would continue to work on that. And I did, as you can see here. I put in grays, and I put in the reds, and I was really just trying to give it dimension, to make the whole thing three-dimensional, and to make that door stand out, and to kind of deal with the fact that I was very skeptical about why I'd used watercolor at all. I felt bad about it, but I kept working at it. And I kept mixing up some more colors. You can see, here's my basic palette. And then here it is at the end. I had put in quite a lot of darks. I colored the ground. I continued to be bothered by that tree in the background, and I painted it green, but then it blended in with the building, so I had to draw the sky around it and knock that back. And I tried to paint the neon sign. I think I was just really overly ambitious, honestly. I think and this happens to me a lot of times with urban sketching, is I don't know when enough is enough, and I just keep going. And I'm having fun. I was certainly having fun doing this and observing and getting deeper and deeper, but I was distracted by the people around me, and I don't know, I didn't have a real vision for what I wanted to do with this when I started, so I think it shows a bit. But it's actually not as bad as I thought. I mean, it has some charm to it. It pops off the page. The thing I love about Nina's drawings is how she manages to sort of fill the whole page, or to create a little frame around something. I tried to do that a little bit. I don't know. I may go back and work on this some more, but I was pretty, I was happy with the experience, if not with the results. And here it is. It is 6:30, so it took me an hour and a half, notwithstanding the police cars that are in New York. So it took me about an hour and a half to do it. And it rekindled my passion for urban sketching. I've done a lot of it, but I haven't done it because it was cold this winter, and now it's spring. So I'm looking forward to doing some more, and I'm looking forward to seeing what you've done and where you've taken your inspiration from Nina to make some really cool drawings of your neighborhood. I'll see you in the gallery.